Hey up everyone, welcome back to the History of Football channel. Today on the channel I'll be doing my season review of Everton's 2023/24 season. Now if you're new to the channel, new subscriber, you didn't know who I support or you haven't watched some of my previous videos, I am an Evertonian. I've supported Everton pretty much my entire life, so I'll be doing a review of their season. Now last year, as we all know, on the final day of the season we won 1-0 at Goodison Park, courtesy of an Abdoulaye Doucouré goal which kept us up, and I'm pretty sure we all thought the same thing: never again, never ever again to go through that on the final day. And I was hoping for a better year this year. I had a little bit of optimism going into the year. I knew that we certainly wouldn't probably finish top half of the table, but certainly I thought that this squad was good enough to stay in the Premier League. And let me just say, this season I pretty much went through every emotion you can as a human being. I think I went through the highs, the crushing lows. I had a lot of sleepless nights, a lot of anxiety, blood pressure went through the roof, lots of long days, long nights, but in the end the club did finish 15th on the table. They avoided relegation for another year, but there's a lot of stuff that went along the way where at sometimes I just thought to myself, look, this is it, this could be the end of Everton in the Premier League, but we'll get into that. Before the season began as well, I didn't really expect that the club would do much in terms of transfers. Of course, we've had some financial issues for a couple of years now, ownership issues. It hasn't been the best of places, Everton, and I knew that they probably weren't going to spend money on players or get anyone in, but we definitely needed some attackers. That's something that we definitely needed, because goals over the last couple of years have been a real problem at the club, and we managed to do so in some part. We got Beto, we signed him from Udinese, and we also got Yusuf Chimiti from Sporting Lisbon. Also we got Ashley Young on a free transfer. That were a bit of a shock signing for me. And also we managed to get Arnaud Danjuma on loan, a player that initially chose Tottenham Hotspur over us, but then ended up at Everton as a second choice. And also Jack Harrison. Funnily enough, we were, I should say, a second choice to him as well. He signed for Aston Villa, and when they did the medical, he failed the medical, and then he chose us as a second choice. But they were the people that we brought in for the season. The players that we managed to either loan out or send out, there was well over 20 players that we got shot of. Asma Begovic went to Queen's Park Rangers. We also sold Alex Iwobi to Fulham for over £22 million. We sold Damari Gray, and we also got shot of Moise Keane, and Yerry Mina was released and he went to Fiorentina. So we did lose a really good centre back in Yerry Mina. I mean, when he were fit and playing, he was a good player for us, but as we all know, the emergence of Jarrad Branthwaite this year meant that most of us all quickly forgot about Yerry Mina, and we were all talking about how good Jarrad Branthwaite was. To be honest, the start of the year for Everton were a tough one in my personal opinion. I think we went the opening 5 matches without a win. We only picked up 1 draw against Sheffield United. So a really slow start of the year. I think our first proper win of the year were against Doncaster Rovers in the League Cup. That's where Beto made his debut for the club. But besides that, it was really slow going to start the year. We finally managed to get our first win of the year away to Brentford, and then things started to look up over the next 6 matches. I think that we won 4 of those and drew 1. So after a couple of years where we were very inconsistent, weren't really playing well, I think under Dyche, after a very slow start, we started to get into the groove. And then, as we all know, the points deduction. And when that points deduction were handed down to the club, I really thought, you know what, this could be it. Especially, it was the biggest points deduction in Premier League history, more than Portsmouth, which makes no sense because Portsmouth were in administration, they got 9 points deducted. We were what, 1 charge? We got charged with 1 thing, and we were deducted 10 points. 10 fucking points for like one charge. We were, I think, £20 million over the profit and loss. Obviously, at the time, I thought, look, this could be it, because the squad was already bare as it could ever be. And then on top of that, we lost all the points that we pretty much accrued. And I think we were bottom of the table. And I just went, I don't know if the squad's got the bottle. I don't know if they got the fight to stay up, especially after being hit with a 10-point deduction. I mean, that's tough in any league. So that were a really, really dark time for myself personally when I got that 10-point deduction, and I'm pretty sure a lot of Evertonians out there would have felt the same way. But in light of that, I think maybe the points deduction in a way kind of galvanised the team even more. Yes, that first match after the points deduction were a bit of a disaster. That were really another low moment of the year for me against Manchester United. Pretty sure we all remember Garnacho pulled a goal out of his ass early on in that game, and then he scored 2 goals in the second half. You guessed it, Anthony Martial with a goal. So I don't think he's scored a goal since, has he? Has he even played? I don't know. But anyway, getting sidetracked there. Yeah, that game, it weren't good, especially when a lot of Manchester United supporters said, look, we were in second gear that game. But then after that, I think that match were a bit of a reality check for the squad, because in the next 4 games we defeated Nottingham Forest, Chelsea, Newcastle United and Burnley, and we didn't concede a goal. So pretty much that 10-point deduction within the space of 2 weeks were erased. We were back out of the red zone, and yeah, I mean, I was really confident after we got that victory over, I think it was Burnley just before Christmas, to get 4 wins in a row. I thought, this is it, you know, we're definitely staying up now, like. But as with twists and turns in the year, things didn't always go our way. And between the 16th of December and the 6th of April, we didn't win a game in the Premier League. I think it was the longest run ever recorded, I should say, longest winless run recorded by Everton in the club's history, I think, or maybe for at least 60 or 70 years. It was a really, really tough time. I mean, there were some games where we were in front and then we concede a late goal and get a draw, like we did at Brighton Hove Albion, or we concede 2 late goals or whatever. It was, I think it was against Bournemouth was one, West Ham United were another. And I was just thinking to myself, when's a win going to come? I mean, it's been literally 2 or 3 months. And then we finally managed to get a win over the same opponents that we beat just before Christmas in Burnley to get our first win in, I think, about 3 months. And during that time, there were calls to sack Sean Dyche. And myself personally, I think sacking Sean Dyche at any time of this year would have been counterproductive. I mean, how the squad is and how Sean Dyche has sort of improved the squad, yes, that were a really bad time for the club, but I think that if we would have sacked Sean Dyche, we would have been even in a worse position than what we are, because I think with that points deduction and everything that we went through, Sean Dyche really galvanised the team this season. On the 26th of February, though, that was just before we got the win over Burnley, we actually won our appeal in some way. I mean, really, I think we should have got all the points put back that were taken off us, but we managed to get 4 points deducted off the original 10, so it was still a 6-point deduction. So I'm thinking, yeah, this is bollocks, but we'll take anything, because some people were saying that we might get a point back or whatever. I'm lucky that we got 4 points back, and then a month after that, once again, financial fair play, all this caper, we got deducted another 2 points. Now, I think going into the future, this is going to be an ongoing thing until we sort out the ownership and we move into that new stadium, because I think another points deduction could be coming next year, potentially administration. But getting back on track for the rest of the year, towards the end of the year, we were still in a relegation dogfight. There were no certainties that we were going to stay open. I tell you what, I had a lot of sleepless nights. My blood pressure was going through the roof. But I think one of the turning points, it might sound a bit crazy, but one of the turning points towards the back end of the year is when we got battered 6-0 by Chelsea. I mean, that were a really awful display by the club. I don't think we were really ever in that game, and yeah, it was probably one of the worst performances I've seen under Sean Dyche by an Everton team. But I think that loss and the fact that we're only, I think, 1 or 2 points above the drop zone, it woke the team up. The team probably thought to themselves, fuck, like, we better wake up. We've got some really big matches coming up in the league, especially at home. Our home form hasn't been great, but we've got to wake up, otherwise we're going down, because the likes of Nottingham Forest, Burnley were picking up points, Luton had picked up points and were kind of slowing down, so there was no certainty that we were going to stay up at that point. But then, obviously, this is when the magical run towards the end of the year happened. We got the 2-0 victory over Nottingham Forest. A bit of controversy in that game, but that were a massive 3 points for the club, massive. And that game just seemed to go on forever. Like, the injury time, I think we had 11 minutes of injury time or something like that. Then, when I were away in Spain, the 2-0 victory over Liverpool. I couldn't even watch the game. We rarely ever beat them. And when we finally beat them, I'm not there to watch it. But got the 2-0 victory over Liverpool, which pretty much ended their chances of winning the Premier League. I saw the highlights, obviously, after I got back from Spain. Great performance from the lads. And then we kind of finished the year at home with a 1-0 victory over Brentford and a 1-0 victory over Sheffield United, with a draw in between against Luton Town. And I were always looking at that fixture against Luton Town at Kenilworth Road, and I was thinking, I'm dreading this, like, I really am. But I'm glad that this year, that when it come down to the final 1 or 2 games of the year, we were safe, we didn't have to worry about it. I think the relief that when we beat Brentford, and it pretty much meant that we were going to stay up, it was just the weight and everything off me personally, the anxiety, the worry, everything just seemed to disappear after that, and it were a great feeling. So we ended up finishing the year in 15th place. If it weren't for the points deduction, we would have finished just behind Bournemouth, so we would have come either 12th or 13th. We had 13 wins for the year, 9 draws and 16 losses, 40 goals for, 51 goals against, and we finished with 40 points. So considering everything that the club went through, the 2 points deductions, lots of other shite going off the field, off the pitch I should say, with talks of administration, the 7-7 debacle which is still ongoing. I'm really proud of the lads. I'm really proud of the lads this year. We don't have the best squad in the league, but there's something about this squad. There's a bit of belief there. We're not the most talented, we're not the fastest, we're not the most technical, we're not, you could say, world beaters. I don't really think we've even got any, besides probably Branthwaite, we don't really have any superstars in the team, but we looked adversity in the face. Everyone was saying, you're going down, getting relegated, enjoy the championship, best stadium in the championship, all this shite. And once again, for another year, we stuck our 2 middle fingers up at the opposition fans at the Premier League. And I think this is the fact that we come 15th this year is really good, because, I mean, as I mentioned earlier, with that points deduction and all the other stuff going on, I really fear the worst for the club. Looking at the other competitions we were in, with the FA Cup, we were knocked out in the 4th round by a last minute goal at Goodison Park against Luton Town. Yeah, that were a bit of a shite game, that one. Both teams weren't at their best, and in the end Luton Town once again beat us. I think we played them 3 times this year and we didn't beat them at all, just 2 losses and a draw. As for the League Cup, and this is one that really disappointed me. So with the League Cup, early on there was a few clubs, like some of the big clubs in the Premier League were knocked out, and the draw was kind of favourable for us. And in that quarter final, we played against Fulham at Goodison Park, and I thought to myself, look, we might not win the League Cup this year, but this is a chance to really do something. How often is it the fact that Everton get to play at Wembley in a semi-final, or they even get to play in a final. I haven't seen in my lifetime the club make too many finals, so I thought to myself, this is a real opportunity against a Fulham team who, you know, they're beatable. They're not a well-beaten team. They're not one of the elite teams in England. So I really thought to myself, this is a really good chance to make something of this League Cup. If we would have beaten Fulham, we would have played Liverpool in the semi-final, and who knows? I mean, the way that Liverpool kind of went in the second half of the year, the fact that Klopp were leaving and some other things going on there, rivalry game, derby game, you just don't know. But that game against Fulham, I mean, how Fulham won that's the thing that really disappoints me the most, and I still think about it now and I go, what a missed opportunity that were, especially with the penalty shootout towards the end. Pickford did his job. He put us in a position to win. Fucking Onana steps up. He's got the opportunity to put us into a League Cup semi-final against Liverpool, and he does that penalty. I mean, I still haven't forgiven him for that. I haven't. I mean, there's probably some people out there that go, grow up, you know, fucking act your age. It's only a game. People make mistakes, all that type of stuff, but when you're Everton and you don't really get that many chances to actually do something, especially with this squad that we've got currently, I really think it's a missed opportunity, and it's definitely probably one of my low points of the year in this season, I should say. Supporting Everton was that League Cup game against Fulham. I guess if we're going to be talking about low moments in the season as well, a game that really stood out to me, might not stand out to other people, but for me, was the game against Wolves at Molineux there on the 30th of December 2023, just before the new year. We lost 3-0 against Wolverhampton Wanderers, and they outplayed us. I don't even think we had a shot on target. We were really, really sluggish in that game. We were second best at everything, and I thought to myself, you know, if we have more performances like this is not going to end well. Yeah, that weren't a good match to watch. Obviously, we copped a lot of banter after full time by the certain clubs, especially Wolverhampton Wanderers supporters, but yeah, that's definitely probably one of the low moments of the year for me. Now we'll talk about some of the high moments of the year. Definitely one that really sticks out to mind, and I really love this game for a number of reasons, because I was really happy for Beto to get his first goal at Goodison Park, and that were on the 7th of December 2023 against Newcastle United. We beat them 3-0. The place were absolutely rocking, especially when Beto got that third goal. Just the way, especially the last couple of years against Newcastle United. I mean, obviously they've got a thing against Pickford because he's a Mackham, and they're always going to want the beat us because of that. But especially over the last couple of years, and I will say this, ever since they've been taken over by the Saudis, their fans have become quite nasty in a way, I think. And yeah, with a lot of them online, they've said some very unpleasant things about Everton, about Liverpool as a city as a whole. Especially last year, I remember online they were taunting us, saying you're going down, relegation, best stadium in the Championship, all this type of shite. And to beat them 3-0, especially with the squad that they had, because Newcastle United's got a really good team, and to beat them 3-0 with our team, that's definitely one of the highlights for me for the season. And obviously the other highlight for the year, I still smile when I think about it, is the match against Liverpool, Goodison Park. Huge game for both teams. Liverpool obviously chasing the league where we were looking to stay up. And we beat them 2-0. Jared Branthwaite and Calvert-Lewin getting the goals. I still can't believe that we beat them, because let's face it, we don't beat Liverpool much these days. So the fact to beat them, to stop them from winning the league title, just all the emotion around everything. I mean, if we were to play like that every game, we'd finish top four. We'd finish top four, but unfortunately, as has been the case for a few years with Everton, we normally don't string too many matches like that in a row, or too many performances like that in a row. But I'm really proud of the lads that game. They did the club proud, they did the area proud. In a way, that game pretty much, that was huge in our survival. And there's some really good moments out of that match that I remember, and I'll remember for a long time. So that's definitely one of the highlights for me. But one real problem that we had all year, and this has been a problem for a couple of years, is the lack of goals, the lack of creativity, the lack of pace in the team. Once again, not really many goals from the people that should be scoring the goals. Calvert-Lewin was the top scorer for the club in all competitions with 8 goals. 8. And I think he went 17 or 18 matches without scoring a goal. So going forward, hopefully he remains injury free, but we definitely need more goals from Calvert-Lewin. And considering our next best goal scorer were Beto, who got 5 goals all season, I mean, that's just not good enough for the Premier League as far as I'm concerned. The other two sort of main goal scorers that we had were Abdoulaye Doucouré. He got 7 goals, and Jack Harrison got 4 goals. But it's a real issue that the club's had for a few years now, is trying to either attract a good striker to the club or just trying to create goals. And I think the club really needs to look at that in the off season. The defence is fine. I think we had one of the best defences in the league. Pickford had, I think, 15 clean sheets overall, so great effort from Jordan Pickford. Tarkowski and Jared Branthwaite, for me, they were just rocks at the back. Great centre-half pair in there. I think Jared Branthwaite is going to be a superstar in the making, and I don't think that we're going to be able to keep him for much longer, but hopefully it's for another year. Hopefully we can convince him to stay for just 1 or 2 more years. I know he's been commanding a lot of attention by clubs, and I think Everton want a big fee for him, so we'll just have to wait and see how that pans out. But talking about some players that really stood out for me this year, I will mention Jared Branthwaite. Obviously, I think he's easily top 3 best player for Everton this year. Tarkowski, the fact that we got him on a free transfer from Burnley, what a steal. Good player at the back there. In terms of the midfields, Idrissa Gana Gueye, he was solid. He had his moments. He wasn't always perfect. He didn't always have the best game at times, but like I said, pulled off some really important moments, got some important goals for the club. Some of the other players, they had their moments. They were kind of hit and miss. They weren't consistent. Like Dwight McNeil would have his moments. Jack Harrison would have his moments. James Garner, he'd have a terrible game, then he'd have a good game. Andre Gomez, I mean, he had some good moments, and then he had some really poor moments. I think that Mikalenko improved as a player this year. Obviously, the signing of Ashley Young was a controversial one, and he proved to be a bit of a liability throughout the year, but he's going to be there again next year, so it's going to be another year with heart in your mouth every time that he has to defend or he's called upon something. But other than that, I'll mention Yusuf Chimiti as well. I think when he actually got a bit of a go, when he got a bit of a run in the team, like some decent minutes, I thought he was decent. I thought that he had some good touches. Yeah, he didn't score any goals, but I think that when he was actually given a chance by Sean Dyche, he looked okay. But as I said, next season, I think it's going to be another tough season next season. Obviously, administration's been hanging over the club. The 7-7 debacle, are they going to buy the club or not? What's going to happen with Bashiri? The people in charge of the recruitment have said don't expect too many players to be coming in. We might have to offload more players. Maybe some of the bigger earners have to go. There's certainly some ones that I get shot of. I'm pretty sure you all know who I'm talking about, Michael Keane. But besides that, with this season, I'm just relieved that, look, with all the adversity we faced, we've managed to stay in the Premier League yet again. Of course, look, as an Everton fan and the history of our club and how successful we were back in the day, and deep down inside, am I happy that we're just sort of scraping along? No. Obviously I want us to be up there. I want us to be challenging for things. But just the way that the club's been run for so long, it's made it near on impossible for that to happen. And you know, next year is going to be the last year at Goodison Park. It's going to be really hard to say goodbye to Goodison Park. Especially me personally, I was probably one of the few people that said I want to stay there. I don't want a new stadium, but hopefully this new stadium, when everything's said and done, turns out to be something positive for the club and something that we can build on for the future. But anyways, that's been me 2023-24 Everton season review, and I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope that you liked the video today, and if you've got your own thoughts on Everton season and what you think is going to be happening next year, let me know in the comment section below. I'd be really interested. So sorry for the lack of content recently. I do run other channels and I've got a job and everything to balance and all that caper, but hopefully I've got some more content come out very shortly, so stay tuned for that. Anyways, this has been History of Football, and I'll catch us all later in the next one. Up the Toffees.